I think the recording has started. I wanted to make this video for you guys so you have an idea as to how to approach project part 2. I have my modules here to show where to access project part 2. Hopefully you all have downloaded the PowerPoint for this term. If not, it's shared in the folder, it's shared in the announcements. Project part 2 consists of the frequency distribution slide. And you have 2 of them. However, the first one, if you can see my screen, is simply the instructions, directions, delete for submission. This slide you will delete. This is just telling you how to do it. This slide here is the one that you're actually going to put things in and things on. And then this is the one that will be saved for your project. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to show you on here to project part 2, what it says here. We'll look at it here. To access blah, 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 blah. All right, using the 35 values that you created for project part 1. So project part 1, it consisted of your systematic sampling method, the sample slide on the project template, and you're using that same sample, which is why you want to make sure that you're sampled correctly. You are using that sample for the rest of the project. So we're going to use that sample here to create a frequency distribution table with 10 classes. If you did not collect the 35 values yet, you go back to project part 1 in that video and follow the instructions to do that. Download the template if you need it here. But hopefully you guys are already working on it. We're going to start by calculating our class width, because obviously we need that to be able to create a frequency table. If you get a decimal, go up to the next whole number, which is one of our rounding rules to be able to do that. Let me see what I have here. I want to make sure. I'm just going to use, I'm going to use this random sample here. I'm going to pretend like this is my 35 values. I don't have 35 values, but the idea is just to give you an idea and to show you what process to take, right? So I'll pretend that I already have my 35 values. I suggested you guys to put them in L5 so you don't have them affect your assignments and such, and you're going to be using that sample multiple times for your project. So if you did not, I would suggest to list your 35 values in L5, but just remember that you are using L5 when you are going to do whatever calculations with the calculator. So we're going to calculate our class width. We know the formula, max minus min over 10 for 10 classes. We're rounding up because everybody's data set should basically be whole numbers. We're going to fill in the table, finding the lower bounds, upper bounds. We'll find the frequencies. We'll find the relative frequencies, which basically is kind of like intuitive based on just looking at the table. You're creating your table, right? 10 classes. And then in your own words, explain what you did to fill in each column of the table. What does the table reveal? So that's the part that you're kind of answering here. In your own words, explain what you did to fill in the table. What does the table reveal? So here's what I'm looking for. Okay. I'll give you an idea. So you guys already have your sample, right? It's already hopefully on the sample slide. I don't have any values here, but you guys hopefully have already done this slide. And we're going to use these values, which I had suggested that you put into L5 in ascending order. If you have not done that, then go to stat and sort A. Oops. Stat and sort A. And then tell it where your list is. If your list is in L5, you're going to press this button, but because L5 is blue, I got to press the blue button and then the number 5. Mine is in L1, so I'm just going to put L1. Oops. You guys will put L5 if your list is in L5. Oh God, see what happens. Sort A. But put your stuff in ascending order. Once it's in ascending order, it's easy to identify the max and min, right? So excuse me, we're going to start by calculating your class width, and I would like you to show that calculation, and I'm going to show you how you can do that on PowerPoint. So your first step first is to, and you're going to use your own words, please, okay? Calculate the class width. right? You're going to show me this calculation. I want to see it. And this is how you can show me. So class width is equal to, if you are trying to input some type of fraction, which is what I'm going to input here, or any type of mathematical like notation, which you can use for later. You see up here it says insert. I'm going to click insert at the top, insert, and then I'm going to go here to this pi symbol, which is equation. And when I click that, you'll see that a bunch of math stuff pops up. And you could do fractions, exponents, square roots, all kinds of stuff on here. One of the things that you might want to use is the accent when we get to like X bar sample size, or I'm sorry, sample mean. I'll show you how to do that when we get there. For now, I'm just going to do the fraction. And I just want a regular fraction. And I have to click the box that I want to type in. And then I'm going to type max minus min. I'm going to type the bottom, 10. So I'm clicking around, I'm showing how I'm calculating this class width, and I'm doing it such that it's very nice and neat and easy to follow. Another, so my min is 50, my max is 330. So I'm going to go 330 minus 50 divided by 10, right? I'm showing my work in a nice, neat way, easy to follow along with. We're going to calculate it here. Parentheses 330 minus 50, and you want to make sure that you calculate this correctly because you don't want to mess that up. All right, 28. Now, here's the interesting thing. I got 28, but when calculating a class width, we always round up. We will round up to the next integer. And so even though my calculation gave me 28, I'm rounding up to 29. My class width is 29. So, like the idea here is to show that you're calculating your class width first. And I want to see that you understand that you know to round up to the next whole number. So I also want to know what your class width is. My class width is, in my case, 29. Okay. To start the first class, again, you guys are using your own terminology. We use the minimum, right? Explain it in such a way that anyone can understand. So my first lower bound is the minimum. So the lower bound of the first class is the minimum of, what is it, 50. I will add the class width to the lower bound of the first class to continue to find each lower bound. This is my method of doing it. It's kind of a faster way of doing it. So I'm taking 50, I'm adding 29, right? And just keep doing that. Get all your lower bounds. 79 plus 29, 108. Just keep adding 29, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, well, not 29, your class width, right? Keep adding your class width. I'm not going to do the whole thing. Then it's easy to find your upper bounds because it's obviously one less than this lower class. So you can explain that here. To find my upper bound per class, it is one less than the lower bound of the next class. And I want you to use your own words, okay? Please use your own wording. So then we described how we created the classes. We did this until we got to 10 classes. Now to find the frequencies. How do I find the frequencies? To find the frequency of the first class, and I'm not going to type it here anymore, I want you guys to use your own words, but to find the frequency of the first class, I have to go to my data and find and count all the values that are between 50 and 78 inclusive. So once my list is in order from least to greatest, this is easy to do because you're just kind of going down. 1, 2, 3. Looks like my frequency for my first class is 3 because 3 of the values are in that class or in that range. From 79 to 107, I have 1, 2, 3. My next frequency is 3, and then so on and so forth, right? Now you're explaining your process to find each column here. You're explaining what I'm telling you, but you're doing it in your own words, okay? One thing is I do want to see the sum of this frequency column, and this is something that you can do here if you choose. It's not required, but you can literally show the summation of the frequency column here. And I'm going to tell you that it should add up to 35. Make sure it does. If it doesn't, then you missed values. Remember that you have 35 values in your sample. So this has to add up to 35. If it doesn't, you made an error. That's a quick check. And so I want to see the sum here. To find your relative frequency, I do believe in the instructions, it tells you to round to 4 digits. Yep. Find the relative frequency, round all decimals to 4 places. So we're going to round to 4 places. Now, you're going to type and say, to find the relative frequency per class, take the frequency, right, divide by 35. So I'm going to do that on my calculator. My first relative frequency will be 3 divided by 35. Rounding to 4 places, so 0.0857. 0.0857. Because this frequency is the same, it's going to have the same relative frequency. And I'm going to continue to do that. I take the frequency and I divide by 35 total to get my relative frequency. And I'm going to continue to do that for my 10 classes. And I want to see also here, if you want to use the notation to show you, you foolish stuff, insert, equation, all the math stuff is here. You'll see the summation right there. It's the first one. I can show summation of RF is equal to. What should it be equal to? Hopefully, remember, it has to be close to 1, if not 1. Okay, close to 1, if not 1. So you filled out your table. You created the table, all the lower bounds, all the upper bounds, all the classes. What are the frequencies, relative frequencies? You explain how you did it here. How did you calculate your class width? What is your class width? Don't forget to round up to the next integer. How did you find your frequencies per class? How did you find your relative frequencies per class? And then looking at the table you're going here, what does the table reveal about your data that you didn't know before organizing it into a table? Some of you may find, this is one example, that the frequencies are really high here at the lower values, and they kind of decrease here to maybe even like 0 at the end, or a very low value. So if I were to draw some type of distribution, it would be high here and tail off, which would be a type of skewness, if you recall. And in that kind of situation, if I have a lot of frequencies here that are high and it tails off over here at the higher values, values down here, then I would say I have a right skewness. But you want to explain how the table is revealing that. So you're kind of talking about distribution. If you have normal distribution, you'd be decreasing in your frequencies until you increase toward the center and then decrease similarly as you increased. These are things that you're kind of looking for. I want to know if you're skewed to the right, skewed to the left, are you approximately normal? What does it look like and why? Don't only say, oh, it's skewed to the right. Say why you determine that from looking at the table. Explain it to me in your own words. Okay, so what are you doing? You are following instructions. You're telling me how you calculated your class width. If you want it nice and neat like this, we go to insert. We go to equation, and you can use your fraction, right? Just make sure that when you do, you, and something like this, if I want to delete it or move it, I can. But if you are using this for your fraction, make sure you type into the top to type in the top in the numerator, and then click on the bottom to type in the bottom, click to the right to get out of it, okay? And that's a fun thing. You can use that for any, for any project that you're working on or whatever. So then you're explaining how you determined all these columns. How did you do the classes? How did you do the frequencies? How did you do the relative frequencies? And what kind of distribution do you possibly see based on the table, and why? Don't forget the why. And so that is it for project part 2. Now, if you want to save this slide for a little bit, because maybe you want to save the instructions to see if you need them per feedback, that's fine. But to show you how to delete this slide once you're ready to submit your full project, you're going to right click on this slide and you're going to go to delete slide. So if I'm done with this slide, I'm going to delete slide. It's gone. Okay. I undo. There's a way to undo. Control Z to undo that. Please don't do that on the wrong slide. So be very careful which slide you're deleting. But this one I'm deleting because it says All right. Now I don't mind if you want, to type the instructions on one slide and then have the table on the next, but you don't have to do that because it's kind of set up for you to have the instructions here, your explanation, and then have the table next to it. Hopefully that helps. Not too bad. That's project part 2.